Hey guys, I am Game Advisor and welcome back to another Icarus update video. Today we're going to be covering the week 26 update. This is going to include a lot of bug and performance updates, especially for the Styx map, as well as adding some new things such as arrows and new things that are being able to be skinned into the game. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. First things first, they did add 2 new missions to the Styx map. Again, we do put out all these mission guides as quickly as we can. However, these Styx missions are very long and we want to make sure we cover them thoroughly and give you the right information. So do make sure you subscribe to our channel, as we'll most likely be putting out all the different mission guides for all the Styx missions over the next coming weeks. Otherwise, I'm excited to see more missions. More missions is always a good thing to have, so I'm not complaining at all. Following that, we have the new Larkwell bow and arrows. If you didn't already know, they're doing a big bow overhaul this week, and basically what this is adding in first off is a whole new bow to the game. It is very expensive. It's over 500 exotics, as well as costing a ton of the rocket bucks or ren or whatever the heck they're called. Either way, the new bow is going to give you 125% additional base damage with bows. This is a huge step up, as the best bows we had beforehand could not even compare to this. Before this update, the best exotic bows really couldn't do that much damage, but now they all do a significant amount more. So all the base bows are also going to be doing 75% additional. This means if you don't have the Larkwell, it's fine, but you're just going to be missing out on that extra 50%, and it's going to make it worth your time to bring in a bow now. Beforehand, we were all just crafting fiber or wood bows in the mission or caveworm bows, but now that we have this as an option, it's much better to be bringing in an exotic bow over crafting one yourself. Now, the Larkwell bow does also come with 4 new arrow types. You have your standard arrows, which are basically just like the other standard arrows we had before. They cost a bunch to research, and then I believe they cost 50 to craft, 25 of them each time. And once you consume them in a mission with all of these arrows, just like beforehand, you're not going to get them back. But it is worth mentioning that these arrows will do about 100 damage, which is significantly more than the other ones we had before. You then also have bleed arrows, which just cause a small bleed effect, taser arrows, which will slow your target. However, they're not as effective at slowing larger targets, and they aren't very effective at all at slowing bosses. You do also have ballistic arrows, which are the coolest ones in my opinion, and these are essentially explosive arrows. They do a ton of damage, and they can absolutely annihilate a pack of enemies. Therefore, if you're grouping a bunch of enemies up for some reason, this is the arrow you're going to want to be using. Either way, I'm definitely glad they added this into the game. I think bows needed some work in the workshop. They really haven't had anything done to them in quite some time, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do with the other weapons as well. Now, there is also a number of different bug fixes that they've implemented in the game, as well as just some new features. They've now implemented the Jaguar, Snow Leopard, and Kia onto the skinning bench, as well as added the Scorpion to the skinning bench. I'm glad they've put all these in. These are all great additions. There was really no reason for them not to be in there, so I'm glad they have it. They also tweaked some of the other missions, like the Halcyon mission, which had just a ton of cubs spawning incredibly quickly, so I'm glad they turned that down. It was a little bit ridiculous. They also fixed the difficulty scaling with the Ricochet expedition, so again, just another thing I'm glad to see them fixing. But they also added the steel arrow recipe as well. That's a new recipe they're adding into the game. I'm glad to see it. It's another option we have for bows. It makes bows even more viable in the mid to late game if you're crafting up to that tier, so I'm just glad to have it. They've also updated the graphics for all of the different backpacks, as well as added in a archer backpack, in case you didn't already know. Each of them now looks more traditional in their design, and they don't just have these big vibrant colors that don't really match the atmosphere of Icarus in general. So I'm glad to see the rework for them, although if I'm being completely honest, I did like the vibrant colors, but that could just be my personal opinion. They've also moved the oxygen bladder closer to the oxide dissolver inside the tier 2 talent tree, which is nice for new players. They've also halved the attack range of polar bear cubs, which if you haven't done the Halcyon mission, then you probably don't know, but they were at insane attack range, so I'm glad they have that reduced as well. One of my favorite things in this update, though, is that they finally fixed the ability to swim up and down with spacebar in control. These will now just move you directly up or directly down instead of having to kind of look up at a weird angle. Glad they put it in the game. Should have been in there from the get-go, but at least it's working now, so I'm glad it's there. The last thing I really want to mention before we close this video out, though, is that they did add a slow and immobilization resistance stat to all aggressive creatures based on their size, difficulty, and strength. This means things like wolves will probably only have about a 10 to 20% resistance to that, whereas things like bears are more likely to have like a 40 or 50% resistance. Bosses, on the other hand, will have 100% resistance to all slow and movement penalties that they would get otherwise. This means if you have talents or taser arrows, for an example, that cause the enemy to be slowed, they're not going to really work on bosses, which is a good thing because otherwise it would make bosses too easy. With all of that being said, guys, that's really it for this update. There's just a bunch of different bug and just optimization things they've added. I'm glad they added them. I'm glad to see the new bows and the skins and all the different things they've done in this update. This was a great update with many needed and many wanted features by the community. But with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching, and consider subscribing to our channel or liking the video if you found this informative. We put out new videos every single week covering the updates, as well as covering all the new missions they put out and making tips videos and many other things. We also cover just survival content in general. But again, thank you so much for watching regardless. I'm Game Advisor, and I'll see you next time.